Hi, public speaking. I wanted to make a quick video about picking your topic for your persuasive speech. So I've got some examples up here and I'm going to kind of try to explain to you what it is that you're looking for. One of the first things I would suggest is that you pick something that you can take a clear stance on the issue. So topics that so if I look at like this one, like right here, it says ADHD medication for kids. That's a good topic because I could say I'm either clearly for or against ADHD medication for kids, and I could probably say I could get specific enough that I could say maybe sometimes it's useful in certain situations and not in others. That might be that's a good choice. Buying a hybrid car, really clear if I'm saying, okay, I want you to go do this thing. And so I'm advocating for a specific point of view and I have a clear stance on an issue. Topics that don't work so well are ones where you can't really do that. So an example might be a lot of people are like concerned or interested in the connection between media consumption and violence. Well, that's going to be a hard topic to do a persuasive speech on because when you do the research part, what you're going to find is that there is some link. It might not actually be to violence, but overconsumption of violent media can lead to things like a shorter attention span, a tendency to like lose your temper more quickly, but it doesn't necessarily make people more violent. So there's not really much to persuade people about in that case. Like it's not, or at least it's not clear. At that point, you're giving a persuasive speech about facts, which can be kind of awkward. So it's something that sounds more like an informative speech, right? If I start to look at it through that lens. So it's not as good of a choice because it's a little too complex. I can't narrow it down easily to take a clear stance on the issue. And then the other issue is tied into my second thing, which is that with that topic is there's nothing for me to really advocate for, or to go do. And your speech needs a clear call to action. So my second tip, first tip was have a clear stance. Second tip is have a clear policy that you're supporting. So the media consumption speech, it's really hard to develop a policy for that. And so it's also going to have some clarity. It's going to lack clarity that you really want in your speech. Whereas I might be able to advocate, I could actually adapt that topic fairly well by simply saying, my speech isn't about, does media have an effect on people? Does media make people more violent? Because that's more like an argumentative essay, which is different than a persuasive speech. I could change this up a little bit and I could advocate for, say, limiting consumption of violent media or limiting exposure to video games, particularly maybe in this case for people of a certain age, and I could come up with how much that limit might be. I could decide whether or not I want this to be like some type of law. I don't know how you'd enforce that, but I could ask myself that question. I could say, should I be encouraging parents to do this? So that might be a way I can make it really clear and specific what it is that I want to do. I say I'm going to advocate that children under the age of 18 consume no more than 2 or 3 hours of media per day, and I'm just picking out that number somewhat, not quite at random, but like based on past experience. But what I would say is, you need to have, if you make that clear, it's going to help your audience follow the speech. And so that same thing, if you look at some of these other policies that I have selected here, a policy can be really helpful in terms of telling people what to do. So this 3-foot bike law, which I think started not this last year, but the year before, I think it was 2018 that became a thing. It's a law that says in California you have to give bike riders at least 3 feet of space on the side of the road when you go to pass them if you're driving in your car. And that is a law, so there's my policy, and then I would take a clear stance that says I'm either for or against that in some way. The same thing, I have a clear policy, I can make a clear policy about ADHD medication in children. The sit-lie-in ordinance in Chico, which is a city ordinance that says you can't lie down and take a nap on a public bench. I could be for or against it. So I have a clear stance and I have a clear policy that I'm advocating for. So it makes the speech a little bit stronger. So if we look at a different one like the fast food ban, it's going to be a better speech and a stronger speech if you say, if you can put some kind of clear parameter about around it, like fast food shouldn't be legal, or which is like probably way too extreme, but I'm trying to give you an example. Maybe it's you should consume fast food no more than once a month. Do you see how I just came up with a policy? That's different than getting vague and saying, you should limit your exposure to fast food. That's not quite specific enough. So getting specific is really going to help you. I also just wanted, those were my two tips, right? Have a clear stance, have a clear policy for something for people to do. I also just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that there's lots and lots of different options. This is just a handful. As always, I would say if you're Googling topic ideas, be really careful with that, because some of them are going to be great and super novel, and some of them are going to be terrible and not something that you could really use for this class. So email me if you have questions. And of course, over the weekend, I will be looking at your assignment submission when you go to submit this topic choice, which I think is due on Sunday. Have a good day.